an Anthony Robbins type of a talk. That's not what I'm here to give. But I brought my wife's copy of the book if anyone needs it. You know, it is January, and there are New Year's resolutions out there that are probably starting to wax or wane on the 14th of January. So I'm going to launch into my introduction, and I'd like to start with this PhD program. There are a lot of PhDs out there, especially on this campus, and my PhD is in adult learning. And that's not something I even heard of until about 4 or 5 years ago. I was working at Trinity College and doing some prospecting work, and I stumbled across this guy who worked at UConn, and he was the chair of the adult learning department. Really nice guy. He's since retired, but adult learning has to do with basically, let's just say, everything that happens after you graduate college and after that first job. So the technical term for an adult is, it varies, but in our program we talk about around age 24. So you're done with your secondary schooling and college, university, or what have you, or you've had some training, and you've been working for at least a year or two. So from that age, 24, until whenever, you're an adult learner. And that's a very broad group of people. So I'm looking around the room. Everyone here is an adult learner. If anyone wants to disagree, you're welcome to. So I'm going to get the PowerPoint going. But,
so Alexis, would that be, you say around 24, that would be more of the criteria than, say, some people don't go to college?
Yeah, exactly. College is optional. I mean, everyone's an adult learner.
After a couple of years at your first job.
Yeah, exactly. And there are many paths to success, obviously, and I don't think that college is a make it or break it one by any means of the imagination. And I welcome interruptions. A couple of ground rules that I wanted to set up in describing my program is that adult learners, they draw on work and life experience. So I am not the expert on motivation in the room. I'm just the facilitator for this discussion. So maybe we have some experts on motivation. If you're comfortable raising your hand, I'd love to draw on you in the course of the presentation, but feel free to chime in if something inspires you, because that's important. So here we are. We've arrived, and I have a pointer that I may not get an opportunity to use. So it's a two-part presentation. I wasn't sure how much time we would have with Carol here earlier, and that is kind of a tough act to follow. So again, bear with me, and we'll have some fun. Any questions before we start? Anything? Again, this is a constructivist exercise, so we're going to make meaning of motivation collectively, and hopefully it will help us in our work-life balance or otherwise. And I'm kind of really taking this seriously. I asked Hallie to videotape me. So this is like my TED Talk, if you will, if anyone's familiar. So, our agenda, and this is subject to change if someone has vehement objection. We kind of started this introduction engagement piece, and I'm reiterating it's a guided facilitation. We're going to start with entertaining video, break things up. It's about 10 minutes long, and it's by this guy, Daniel Pink. He was a speechwriter for Vice President Al Gore, and he's done a lot of research on motivation. So I give you him as the subject matter expert. And we'll have a small group exercise at our tables. We look pretty well populated. If anyone wants to change seats, now is a good time to do it. And then I will talk a little bit about what I studied this past fall. I had to take this class. It was a required class as part of my core coursework, and it was on workplace learning. And a lot of it was very HR focused, So think human resources, training, maybe orientation when you start a job, or professional development. So when you go to a case conference or you go to some continuing education opportunity. Our work with Plus Delta Partners, that falls under workplace learning. And it was not the most stimulating class I've ever taken. We had to do something awful called an integrative literature review, but we got a lot out of that experience. And my topic for this integrative literature review, which is kind of like a PhD student's book report, but it's not a book report, was regulatory focused theory. So sometime around September, I think I attended the first professional development task force meeting because I said to myself, well, you're taking this workplace learning class, why not try to do something on the job that reinforces that, or where I can get in front of you all and talk off from my soapbox a little bit. And then we'll have a second group exercise, and at the end of this time, maybe we'll do some sharing, and we can do that as a large group, or we could leave it at the tables. But I think we'd all benefit from some opportunity to hear what people came up with through the exercises, because every table is going to have a slightly different question when it comes to the small group number 2 exercise. So everyone on board? Anybody rather get a cup of coffee or? All right. So part 1, and I've got to load a YouTube video. So here we go. How are those New Year's resolutions going? And don't just think about work, but when we're going through motivation, think about whatever aspects of your life are motivating, or maybe could benefit from greater depth of motivation, because they're all related. Moment of truth, right? That in fundraising would have been the pregnant pause, where you don't break the silence. So we're in business. It's Wi-Fi only in this room, so they warned me that this might take a little time to load. And there's an annoying short commercial that I'll try to skip as soon as it lets me.
When you say motivation, do you mean big picture motivation, or write this stupid memo and get it done and stop doing what you're doing motivation?
So Daniel Pink will talk on a macro level, and then part 2, I'll speak on the micro level to your point about, get this stupid memo written.
Right.
So it's a little over 10 minutes. I think it's going to be well received, but you'll tell me afterwards.
Our motivations are unbelievably interesting. I mean, I've been working on this for a few years, and I just find the topic still so amazingly engaging and interesting. So I want to tell you about that. The science really surprised me. The science...
Farmer. A little demotivating.
A little bit freaky, okay? We are not as endlessly manipulable and as predictable as you would think.
We may have to bail on
whole
this.
set of unbelievably interesting studies. I want to give you 2 that call into question this idea that if you reward something, you get more.
If you just pause
It'll load a little bit. So clearly we have to raise some money for infrastructure and technology.
Budget relief.
But let's try from here. And if I leave it small, it might work better.
So let's go from London to the mean streets of Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Or not.
It doesn't make it.
All right.
Pause it while you talk about something. Just if you pause it, wait and let it get ahead of itself.
Okay, so anybody know any good jokes? On motivation, let's keep it relevant. As we wait for this experiment, I was thinking about what a dangerous time of year it is to talk about motivation because of New Year's and New Year's resolutions. And so, Anne-Marie, my New Year's resolution is to use the T drive. Now that said, it is a resolution, so it's probably got an expiration date. But if I don't do that, I am going to try and convert everyone to Box, which is like Dropbox, because it's like the T drive, but you can access it from anywhere, anytime. And I'd say this is the third strike, and then I'm going to move on, and we'll email this out so people can watch it later.
I'm Gerald Thomas, professional organizer. I work with businesses and...
I guess it reloaded.
individuals to streamline their lives.
Here's it. In the northeastern part of the United States. And let's talk about a study done at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Here's what they did. They took a whole group of students and they gave them a set of challenges. Things like memorizing strings of digits, solving word puzzles, other kinds of spatial puzzles, even physical tasks like throwing a ball through a hoop. Okay, they gave them these challenges. They said to incentivize their performance, they gave them 3 levels of rewards. Okay? So if you did pretty well, you got a small monetary reward. If you did medium well, you got a medium monetary reward. And if you did really well, you were one of the top performers, you got a large cash prize. Okay? We've seen this. This is essentially a typical motivation scheme within organizations, right? We reward the very top performers, we ignore the low performers, and the other folks kind of in the middle. Okay, get a little bit. So what happens? They do the test, they have these incentives, here's what they found out. 1, as long as the task involved only mechanical skill, bonuses worked as they would be expected. The higher the pay, the better the performance. Okay, that makes sense. But here's what happens. But once the task called for even rudimentary cognitive skill, a larger reward led to poorer performance. Now this is strange, right? A larger reward led to poorer performance? How can that possibly be?
I'm not going to reduce all your salaries.
Thank you.
Are all economists at 2 at MIT, 1 at the University of Chicago, 1 at Carnegie Mellon, okay? Top tier of the economics profession. And they're reaching this conclusion that seems contrary to what a lot of us learned in economics.
But now you're hooked, right? Yeah.
But Alexis, if it's like 2 minutes, you're going to have to let it go for at least half of that.
Okay, so lesson learned. I'm going to email this out to everyone to watch on their own. And let me paraphrase Daniel Pink's, the rest of this talk, because I've seen it a few times. So, a surprising research result, right? They thought maybe it was just unique to this one study, so they took it abroad. They took it to India, and they replicated it there, and the financial incentives, they thought, might go further. So the small prize was a week's salary. The medium prize was a month's salary. The top performer prize was 2 months' salary. And what happened? The exact same thing, except at the top reward, it was like a factor worse in terms of productivity and output. And he goes on in greater detail about what really motivates people. And it's not what you might think. And then he gives a couple examples of places that tried something drastically different and got tremendous results. So he talks about a company in Australia, and it's an engineering software type firm. So they have what's referred to as a FedEx holiday. They give all their employees across the organization 24 hours to do whatever they want. And overnight, they have to deliver. So they have to show what their output is, what their outcomes were. And it's fun. There's beer and pizza and cake, and they draw that on there several times actually. And it's that enthusiastic environment. It's a creative opportunity. It's stimulating. So like some ridiculous percentage of their best ideas, software fixes, new products, all came from this 24-hour period. And why? Daniel Pink ends this with 3 points, which really drive it home, and that is that FedEx holiday gave these employees autonomy. It gave them an opportunity to exercise mastery. And lastly, it gave them a sense of purpose. So autonomy, mastery, and purpose. If you want to write something down, that would be what I would recommend in the first half of this talk. And we are going to take that into a little group exercise at our tables. So Kathy's going to pass out. So I'm hearing good conversation, and we want to encourage that. If you guys wanted to meet up with your table after this meeting at some point to continue the conversation, that would be a great adult learning outcome. But we're going to move on to the second half of this dog and pony show. So I think everyone's with me on motivation. We kind of all talked about it. I heard some defining of terms. What is autonomy? I heard over here. You know, that's the kind of stuff that's the constructivist understanding, making sense of terminology. So I worked on this part last night, and thank God that my wife Liz sat down with me for a little bit, because this is remarkably better than it would have been otherwise. I'm trying to educate you guys on what I spent a lot of my time in October, November reading about, and then what I spent way too much time writing about this past December, to the order of like 47 pages. Regulatory focus theory. So it's a subset of motivation. Like, I couldn't write a paper on motivation. I needed to find some sliver that I could wrap my arms around, and this was it. It's something that this guy, Higgins, who works at Columbia University, he's a sociologist, it's something he's been studying for a good 15, if not 20 years, and I found it referenced all over the place, across different disciplines. So that's when I realized, oh, there's a lot of research here. This is my topic. Think during the course of this second part about your New Year's resolutions or a work-specific administrative task, like, you know, writing that damn memo that we heard about earlier. So regulatory focus theory is a theory about how people pursue goals. We tend to gravitate towards pleasure, and we tend to avoid pain, right? That's a very hedonistic, human nature kind of principle, right? I like to go to campus center for lunch every day because I don't like to feel hungry. Weird example, but anyway. It's very personal, too. That's the other thing about this. Everyone's motivations are different. So this last bullet about people pursue goals in a way that maintains their own personal values and beliefs. So we all carry a regulatory orientation. It's part of who we are. I'm not a psychotherapist, but or a sociologist for that matter, but it's something that came across in all the studies that I read, and this definition was referred back to in every research article that I had the pleasure of spending time in. So there are two facets of regulatory focus theory: promotion focus and prevention focus. So we're going to start with promotion, and I'm not making a value judgment that one is better than the other. Just consider both of them neutral. So promotion self, promotion, it talks a lot about the ideal self. So who you want to be is something that drives you. You're constantly representing goals as hopes and aspirations, things that you'd like to achieve. You're characterized by eagerness and ensuring positive outcomes. And you know what, I just caught myself. I said your, but it doesn't have to be you. It could also be the task at hand. So if you're in the admissions office, it's your job to have a promotion focus, right? You're an external representative, ambassador for Smith College. You want people to apply to Smith. You're going to operate in a promotion focus. Now your regulatory orientation, if I was hiring admissions officers, I would hope that the person that is accepting the job offer has a promotion focus, because there's a better fit for that job. Everybody with me on that? And so there's intrinsic motivation, and promotion-focused individuals, if you have that orientation, you're constantly thinking in terms of growth and development needs. You're trying to go somewhere in your personal life, your profession, your career, what have you. Prevention focus. Prevention focus, again, not a judgment, not the negative, not the other side of the coin. This is not positive and this is not negative by any stretch of the imagination. So you're operating to try to achieve your ought self. And what the heck does that mean? But I saw it over and over again. So ought self is, think of it in terms of how I ought to be. So if I'm on the road as a major gift officer for Smith College, I ought to be a happy person who is really passionate about the mission of Smith College. And even if I don't feel like $1 million that day, I better, put a big grin on and get comfortable in that role. So that would be Alexis operating towards an ought self, I guess, on the road. People represent goals as duties and obligations. So I show up at work on time because it's my duty and obligation to be there at the office at 8:30, and I'm not making eye contact with Christina right now because that has not been the case. So you're driven by vigilance, and this is it. This is the key here. You want to prevent negative outcomes. You want to put the fire out before there's a fire to put out, right? So people with prevention focus are like penultimate firefighters. They want to prevent the forest fire from ever happening. And they're externally influenced, so think of Daniel Pink in terms of return, rewards, like those incentives. The incentives matter, but they're not necessarily monetary. It might not be that big bonus check that we all get here in December at Smith College. Just kidding, no such thing. That's not what I'm aware of. And so prevention focus, you're focused on security needs. And those are, again, back to the regulatory focus orientation. The security need is that value, that you value very highly. So you don't want to mess anything up. You don't want to screw this up for anyone else, and because it's a reflection on your self-worth and it's kind of like a type A personality thing in some respects, maybe. I'm just throwing that out there. If someone wants to disagree with me, they're welcome to, but I just kind of new idea. So, any questions? Prevention, promotion focus?
Are you saying that they work together? Are you saying one is better than the other? Are you saying
one is not better than the other?
And one or the other?
And I'm not saying, actually that was what I wrote 47 pages about. So I'll save you all the time and trouble, because it's not a public document. But if I had to write an abstract for this 47-page paper that I turned in, and I still haven't gone back, although we got our grades, it would be that my assessment of all the academic literature on this topic, time after time, the majority of research articles and researchers, they constructed experiments, and it was either or. Either or, either or. And 10, 15 years ago, that was kind of the consensus out there. But in the past 5 years, more and more people have decided it's not either or. And these are both operating at the same time. And environment and context drive which one's appropriate. So while we all might lean one way or another, and that's not right or wrong, it's just part of who we are. And that could be because of upbringing, it could be because of work environment, again, context and environment, but also our inherent nature. So there it is, but I stretched that into 47 pages.
May I just ask a quick question? Did you find any research reveal that the time in one's life or the stage in one's life affected this? I would think it would.
Absolutely, there's a life cycle to this. So, perfect example is parenting, right? Back to the Teletubbies. If you're parenting, there are research studies on this, and they were comparing parents who have a promotion focus to parents who have a prevention focus, and how the kids turned out. And that's a hard experiment because you've got to wait for them to grow up. But it's nonsense because some researchers were suggesting that you want to raise a child in a promotion-focused household. Well, how are you going to do that and actually get them on the bus to school on time or whatever? You have to be disciplined. So there's a great deal of prevention focus when it comes to raising little children who can't do things for themselves because you don't want them to get hurt. So that's a good question. Yeah. Are we out of time?
We're getting out of time. Can you?
I can wrap this up if you guys in 5 minutes. I thought we had till 11, but 5 more minutes. And if you need to go somewhere else, just feel free to leave. One more example, quick exercise, and then we're done, and we can talk about this later. So organizationally, I'm going to give you an example of promotion focus. Think entrepreneurs starting a company. They've got nothing. They've got nothing but a dream and an idea. Very promotion focused. Got it? Utility company. Right? I heard a laugh over here, right? Very prevention focused. Keep the power running at all costs. You lose customers if the lights don't go on. So in the 2 to 3 minutes we have left, I have some others that we're just going to skip here. Second exercise is promotion or prevention focus. And we have 1 through 10 by table number. If the team captains look, this is a topic of conversation. And maybe we don't have time to do it here, but let's spend like 2 or 3 minutes on the topic for your table. If you don't like that topic, pick another one. I don't care. But table 1, the Smith Fund and annual giving, promotion or prevention. Table 2, alumni relations, promotion or prevention. 3, alumni quarterly. 4, local Smith Fund. 5, women for the world. That's a big one. 6, plan units. 7, community leaders. 8, the Smith College Medal. Stewardship, you guys are amazing. Give us more questions. I want to do this. ago, I did something. Yeah. I've never done it. To get it all done. Well, the video. They gave me 40. They gave me 40. I don't have to take it. I'm not fine. If anybody needs this again, good suggestions on the board.
Depending on what the project is, you can have both on the same day. I'm really excited about this one. What do I stop at first?
Goodwill. In many respects.
Scary.
No, but I second the motion actually. In many respects, like Women for the World is cashing in on the goodwill of the Alumni Association has fostered in the past. It's taken up for 5 weeks. For a long before graduation. We're not there yet. There are assessments that we can take throughout their course exam. That's it. Thanks for the extra minutes that we had conversation there. If we had more time, I would have gone through my other slides, and then we could have had a macro conversation about the conversations that were happening around the tables. If the table captains will give me any notes that they took, I'm happy to read through those, and maybe we can pick up on this theme. Kind of in closing, this is part of the model for what I was talking about. If you're in models, not those kind of models. And then special thanks to those of you who were in the office that day that were teasing me about my presentation. And not all of them are here right now. I hope I told everyone